Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, 5011 fam.
We're back from spring break, you guys.
Right, to season 5 of the 5011 Chronicles.
That's so crazy to
Bam.
say.
It is. It's wild. And this is like, we already set y'all up last season. This is a season of reviews. We're going to be reviewing the
Yeah,
things. We're going to be talking about them. Yeah, we're still going to have our conversations. Yeah, we're still going to do the things like we do. But like, we're reviewing things. So y'all, we're going to get right into it. Obviously, Dee and Jay here doing what we do, having conversations that spark
yeah.
conversation. And this one is about Shirley. So let's get into this. Oh my gosh.
Because I haven't got to talk to you since you watched it. I've
You
been waiting for
haven't.
you to watch it.
So before we talk about the movie, because the movie was like stellar,
Mhm.
literally superb, like
For
Regina
sure.
King. I mean, it's
Hey,
Regina King. What else needs to be said?
she gonna
But
eat
before
every time.
she every time 15 courses destroyed, plates clean, happy,
Mhm.
gleaming every time. Like Regina King leaves no crumbs. She leaves no crumbs ever. Before we get into her performance in the actual film, I feel like it's totally appropriate to set it up a little bit because for those who don't know, Shirley's about Shirley Chisholm. She was heavily involved in so many things. The film starts with, her in Congress. So
Yeah,
before we get there, I just want to talk a little bit about who Shirley Chisholm was, the woman, and the time period, because I think it's so relevant to this story and like the magnitude of this woman existing. Like, so she was born in Brooklyn, New York. She came from one parent, was from Barbados, and the other was like British Guyana. So island parents, but she like identified kind of as like Barbadian American. And that kind of comes up a little bit in the film. But she's almost always referred to as like the school teacher turned congresswoman.
yeah,
And I think that that's slick, a little disrespectful, because when you really look into her, like her resume, she wasn't just a school teacher. Like, that wasn't, she had actually moved through education, and she was the type of person who, so she started, I think, with like daycare type centers. That's where, she was teaching, but then she started running them. She was the director of numerous daycare centers and childcare centers. And, as you move up, you take on more responsibilities. It becomes larger. And ultimately, before moving into politics, she was an education consultant for one of the like daycare school systems. And she was responsible for opening new schools and making sure the schools were in good condition and running like 10 schools. That was like a
yeah,
thing. And it's important, I think, to give that context, because naturally, seeing the things that she saw when it came to nutrition and welfare of the people, the actual civil rights of the people, it became important to her that she had to kind of make that bridge
hmm
between the politics and the actual people. She had, and then she talked about it a lot. It was literally her slogan, essentially, where she talked about bringing politics back to the people. So
yeah.
that's how she transitioned into the New York State Assembly, where she was one of the first women to do
Yeah.
that.
And she
And
thought
and
on day one, child, she was just, I'm going to save the world. Day one, everything's getting fixed. This is
absolutely
all going
not.
to go
You
perfectly.
know, and she was a dreamer. Like, the thing, I think one of the things like that the film definitely highlighted too was that she was a dreamer, like a
Yeah,
big deal dreamer. Yeah, she was like a stick of dynamite in a 100-pound vessel, but she was literally a dreamer. She saw the world better. She saw what the world could be. She saw what
yeah,
this nation could be, and she wanted to be a part of that change. And in 1964, she was elected into the New York State Assembly. In 1968, she was elected into Congress, where she stayed until 1983. And I think it's so important, if you look at those years. We're talking about the 60s. We're talking about coming out of Jim Crow. We're talking about the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr., JFK. These things are happening as she's transitioning into leadership around that time. And I think it's important that people see how relevant and important a black woman from New York, of immigrant parents, coming up during a time where we have lost world leaders, and at the same time we've got things like the Voting Rights Act of 1964 coming through. We've got starting to see changes in policy around discrimination and around civil rights, that now we're starting, and women, especially women's rights. This
hmm
is the time when we're starting to, lead into things like Roe v. Wade. We're starting to literally talk about women's ownership of their bodies and women's right to work and women's right to fair wage. So this woman, this black woman, being elected into Congress at a time when there was no other black woman. She was the first black woman. There was no other black woman in Congress. There were a couple other women. There were a couple other black people. There was no other black woman. So she literally was a unique voice at the time coming into Congress. And that's essentially where we start the movie, is she's, starting her tenure as a congresswoman. My goodness.
42.5.
42.5, honey. The movie starts and, you got different scenes of, them taking the picture, the freshman class essentially taking the picture. She's the only spot there, and even her interactions with some of her peers, her colleagues. It's interesting that it's not interesting. And it's not surprising. It's not interesting, nor is it surprising how blatant some of them were. Like the congressman who
they were still comfortable.
Comfortable. But even like the guy who was new, just like her, and every day he would be like, "Here you are, just like me, making your 42.5." Like every day reminding her of her ability or inability to avoid standing out. Like she's always going to stand out. And he made a point of being like, because there were even quotes that she has in her and stories that she's told about being a congresswoman and being approached by different people at different points, black and white, saying like, wouldn't you rather just teach and be at home with your husband and focus on maybe having children?
Not only are you black, but you're a woman. Why are you here?
Why are you doing this? Why are you, this is a man's industry. This is a man's.
Why are you making the same amount of money?
Period. What makes you think you've earned your spot? And I just think she was a fire. First of all,
she was
Regina King. Regina King can do no wrong in my eyes. Like, she can do no wrong in my eyes. Her ability to pull out the different inflections, because there was the Shirley Chisholm voice that I think the world was most familiar with. And then there were those moments when maybe she get a little agitated and that accent came out. And then even Regina having those subtleties, I feel like literally nail on the head, like right on the head. Like
nothing less.
Nothing less. I mean, okay, so give me some of your reflections, because like she starts Congress and ultimately we know Shirley Chisholm later goes to run for president, but like give me some of your reflections on like the film, because I just think it was so well done.
Okay, so first of all, Shirley, sister, love you down. Praise you for the road you paved. Listen, she was doing her thing, but Shirley, girl, I needed Shirley to do a few things for me. First of all, I needed Shirley to still understand reality. Like, it's nothing wrong with you having dreams, but you need to understand the world around you so that you know how to navigate in it. You walking into Congress day one, like, I'm going to be on this thing, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and y'all need to put me over here. And he looking like, girl, you finna go where I'm finna tell you to go. And you finna sit down and you finna shut up. That's what you're going to do. And it's like, she would get a thought in her head, and because she was really blessed to have the people around her that she had around her, because those thoughts would not come to reality without those people, because she was not living in reality at all, which to an extent you need to do in order to do what she did, but to do it successfully, you still have to have some semblance of reality and what's going on in the game that you actually playing. And I feel like she didn't really understand the game that she was playing, and it kind of came up when like she was talking to her sister, and her sister was like, that's because dad made you this way. Like, he always made sure you knew that you were special, or made sure you felt special. And it's like, when you're in the arena of people that you're not special to these people. Like, none of these congressmen think you're special. They're trying to figure out why you're even here in the first place, and they're not going to treat you like you're special.
Right.
You're going to stand out. Yeah, you're going to stand out. But you're not special to these people. They're not finna just go along with what you want. Your bills is not just finna be getting passed. You're not finna save the world today. Like, that's not what's finna. And I feel like it kind of would have played out too as her as president, because like we know the presidents only have but so much power. Like there's still processes to everything. You got to get bills and stuff through certain levels and stuff. And it's like she wasn't understanding the game. That's why they was able to play her the way that they did, because she wasn't listening to the people around her, and she wasn't playing the game right. She was just in her like, this is my goal. This is what we doing. Figure it out. Yeah, y'all figure it out. And it's like, Shirley, sis, like, you can't just be like, y'all figure out how to do it. Like, this is what we
Mm-hmm.
doing. No, you have to be, one, a part of the process, and two, understand what it even is that you're trying to do. And I feel like she wasn't listening to them to even understand the magnitude of what she was really trying to do. Because Mac was trying to tell her the real, and she wasn't listening.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other guy, I remember, what was the other
Arthur.
No, not Arthur. Child, Arthur. Her and Arthur.
Right.
Terrence Howard and that little smirk and that little devious. So from the moment he hit the screen, I said, "Oh, they got something going on."
Mm. I mean, I don't know that they had any
But not
extramarital
Arthur,
affairs, but she did
the
marry
campaign
him
manager.
after. Oh yeah, I
I don't
can't
think
remember
they had
his
an
name.
affair, but he was child. They was flirting. They
Was
did
it Zach?
the little Gene and them. That's how they was acting.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I know. Yeah, the campaign manager.
I
He was a
remember the
mess,
campaign
but yeah,
manager's name.
I can't either.
I understood his frustration to an extent because it's like, why'd you bring me here if you're not gonna listen to nothing I gotta say? I'm just a prop. Like, why am I here? What you want? Like,
I
they
don't
was
know. I
going
kind
over
of
the
see it
state,
both ways.
and they literally, when they were doing the state, it was because it's like it's understandable for her to make it to where she is. She has to have this like she was a type A personality. Like she
Mm-hmm.
had that like stand my ground, very direct. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Caribbean women are like that too. That directness. And
Mm-hmm.
it's cool if you need that kind of bulldogness about you, but you need to know how to listen too. They was going over them stage shots. She wasn't listening to nobody. And then what did we end up doing in the end? Trying to get California.
Exactly. That to me was one of the most frustrating things
You
because
can
he
be
literally was like, "I
bullheaded
can
when you
hand you
winning, but
California."
you are struggling and still trying to be stubborn. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot do both. You got to pick a struggle.
I will say, like, I agree with you on aspects of it because I do think that she was very bullheaded, and the that such strong-willedness and that inability to listen or to compromise is what kept her from winning the presidency.
But she also
Um,
needed it to even get to Congress. Like,
exactly. Like, and I will say that, like, I think that the frustration between her and her sister, at least how it's portrayed in the film, to me, I saw both sides of it because I agree with the sister in the fact that, like, she is kind of caught up in that the way in which she was raised, so much so that it does play as a detriment to her at times. I do think though that, like you were saying, in order to do what she had to do, she had to walk into that room and know she was special. She had to walk into the room
yeah.
and know she had a different kind of work to do, even if nobody else saw her as special. And that's why I was like, I think it was so important that she kept, even if she didn't even think that she was special, she knew that she had a calling or she knew that there was a work that needed
Yeah.
to be done. I think that was one of the really important attributes of her personality because now I will say it is kind of unheard of, but she did it. Like telling that man, I'm not going to be in this committee on what was it, agriculture. She's like, that has nothing to do with Brooklyn or my people or what I'm here for. I'm not doing it. And for her to be moved, for him to literally put her in the committee, in one of the committees that she'd want to be in, that was how her bullheadedness worked to her
Yeah.
advantage because she was able to get more eyes on her and get some of the work that she wanted done. But I agree, there was that loss of touch with reality in the fact that she thought day one, I'm going to go in and get these things, going to start knocking out, getting all the seeds planted on all my plants. No, you're not. That's not how the government works, and that's not how Congress
Yes.
works
And they
by
don't
any
want you
means.
here. The people might have voted for you, but these folks, they don't want you here, sister. They don't
Mm-hmm.
think you can do it. They don't believe in you.
I will say
Like,
another interesting thing, like looking into her actual, because I've known about Shirley Chisholm. I knew that she'd ran for president, but I did not know more of the intricacies of her life, like more of the little details and things
yeah.
like what led to her being elected even into Congress. Because part of how she was elected into Congress is the fact that she was so pivotal in women's rights movement and women's rights organizations in New York. And she was known, I think she was president of one, like she was known in that community of those women activists. I think what one of those heartbreaking moments for me was when they're starting to get to the realization that she's not going to win the presidency or that she's not going to get a nomination, that she's not going to get enough votes, all of the above. And she's like, where are they? Where are the women? I showed up every time for y'all. I did everything, and where are they now? And I think that to me was one of those heartbreaking moments. Because for me, I had a personal reflection of sometimes we sacrifice so much of ourselves to see the people around us succeed that we miss the point when it comes to our own work. Like, it is important to be community, to be in community with others, and for us to show up for each other. But that's the thing, is showing up for each other.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it was just one of those moments that for me, I saw a personal reflection. It was like a mirror moment in the film where I was like, wow, I've seen myself in that position. Like, where are they?
Yeah.
Where the folks is, I did this and I did this to prove this, that, and the other, and nobody's here. Like, and
And it's
so
also too, I think that kind of, for me, that was like, it kind of played into how I feel about, because a lot of people talk about how like Black women gave white women the numbers when it came to the feminist movement, and it kind of affected the dynamic in the Black households and stuff like that, because that
mhm,
really wasn't like, Shirley Chisholm didn't have that issue within her household of where like her husband wasn't allowing her to be a voice or have, like, she didn't have that problem.
she did not have
But
that
as
problem.
on a global scale in our country, women did not have rights. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, as a woman, of course you want to fight for your own rights. But then too, the reality of the time is like, for one, a lot of these white women were married to white men, girl. They're not voting for you. They're not, they gonna do just like how when Cheeto won, they gonna vote just like
That's
they
what's gonna
did
happen.
about it.
Yeah.
Or it's like they used Black women for just for the numbers, really. But it's like, we're not really fighting for the rights of Black women.
hmm
Like, we're not talking about y'all. Like, we really just talking about us. And
Many
that's
times,
one of
like,
those.
yeah, I agree. Cause
It's
like
like, if
what
she had been in reality, she would have understood like, these women are
are
not going to
not
show
for
up for
you.
you.
They're not gonna show up for you.
They're not going to
They'll only show
march
up for issues
behind
that
you
affect
to become
them.
president.
Literally, they're only gonna show up for issues that affect them. And I think that's part of the problem with the world, but our country in particular, is that we want to see change. We just don't want to show up. We just don't want to support each other in all seeing change for each other. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. But
It
it's the
is.
reality of the world that we live in. And
Mhm.
even seeing it then, like, because I will say that her run for president, I mean, we know and we hear, and because of shows and things like Scandal, for sure, definitely gave us like a sneak peek into it. But these backroom meetings and these negotiations and these I scratch your back and these deals, seeing the way that she was screwed over in this movie, like, it's wild.
It made me mad, but then she also made me mad too, because I felt like she was being naive. Like,
Yes,
she was
both.
being
It
so
was both.
naive.
Yes.
I'm like, girl, like, the guy at the table that wrote on the little thing, like, I'm like, girl, he don't eat. Nothing about him gives trustworthy.
Nothing about him gives
Like,
trustworthy,
why
and
are you
she
taking
knew
it
that,
so
and then
hard for
she
this?
still
You
fell
know,
for
the
it.
other guy he just gonna go with whatever. He been doing that since y'all was. He told you to just go along to get along, so you know who he is.
Hmm.
Why you banking on that? Shout out to Barbara Lee though for going and shout out to her getting that spot, Hattie, and being
Period.
the African American woman with the highest in Congress. You better eat six.
Period. Period. Like, I
I was here
think,
for that.
and I think that was also another great moment, like seeing that relationship between her and Barbara grow.
Hmm.
Because at the beginning, Barbara gave every reason why she shouldn't be involved, every reason why she shouldn't, but Shirley saw this as an opportunity to bring about the next generation, whether she knew that's what she was doing or not. It just seems like the kids flocked to Shirley.
Hmm.
And she was one of those who, like, the kids flocked to Shirley because they knew, I can learn from her. She's going to motivate. She's going to push. I'm going to do different things. Even the young white guy who is on her staff,
Yes,
I mean, it
Lord,
was just
her
so much of
was
this for
off
him.
with it.
Jack, not Jack. It was
Can't
something
remember
like
his
that though.
name.
He was doing the thing though. He really was. Everything that was asked of him, he figured it out. And he
Hmm.
figured it out because he believed so 100% in her message. He believed so hard in what she was about, from having
Yeah,
learned from her, from having worked and interned under her. He was like, it really wasn't a question. It really wasn't a question. Like, if
yeah.
actually, Gottlieb, his name is familiar. He's a lawyer, but his name, I just can't remember why I know that
I
man's
can't remember
name.
his name either. No.
I know the last name was Gottlieb. I remember that because it's just one of those names. It's just weird that when you see it, you know it. And I don't know why I recognize that name, but I recognized his name. It was great casting. Terrence Howard, I did not realize it was him. I knew it was him. I thought it was just somebody who looked like Terrence Howard until the angle changed a little bit. I was like, that is Terrence. I
And I
could
knew
not
I
tell.
said, oh, I know he up to no good.
Up to
Because Terrence
something.
Howard is always up to something and
Up
everything.
to something.
He had the little sly smirks,
Mm-hmm.
feeding her all the time. And I don't care. The people say the way to a man heart, the way to anybody heart is through their stomach. Okay? If you feed them good, they gonna be loving it.
But he would
I
literally
would
seem
love to have
like,
somebody let her eat, y'all. Y'all just leave her
that's
be.
something, he seemed like the only person who literally advocated for her though. Like when it came to what
I
she
think that's
needed
what
in
it
the time.
was. You know what I think it was? Is because, so remember when, this is the way I see it. Because they kind of showed a dichotomy of like, what it takes, the personality it takes for her to get to where she's going, but also like you have to have a main character syndrome and
Mm-hmm.
know that like I'm special, I'm meant to do something. But then that main character syndrome, it kind of shows up in the people closest around you. She was so used to all of them, literally like just making sure she was always good and she wouldn't have to do nothing. Like they
Mm-hmm.
just, you know what I'm
Took
saying?
care of
They
it, yeah.
handled business for her. They took care of it for her. And even the dynamic with her and her husband, it's like when she first decided that she was gonna run, it was like, oh, they want me to do this. I told them I would do this. Fine, we doing this, and he just gonna take off days. And I'm just like, girl,
Yeah.
did you ask?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because everybody knew how important she was, they just was like,
We're
we
gonna do it.
understand, so we
Mm-hmm.
gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? We gonna do whatever we gotta do. But when he click clacked up them stairs and came back down with them papers, he said, "Your money, okay." Okay, that was the final straw for him. He said, "Okay, your money, got you, all yours."
Conrad was, I don't know, because he was one of those characters like you love him but you hate him. Because I'm like, he was also, I just,
It was what she needed.
he was what she needed. Their dynamic just frustrated me so much just watching it. Like their dynamic was so frustrating because yes, she totally had main character syndrome, totally had it. And then he totally just had like no grounding, no backbone, no.
But that's the type of person that she created the environment for. Like she needed somebody that was just gonna go with her flow, and she was okay with that. It worked for her. And I feel
Yeah.
like Terrence Howard's character, he did it too, but I think it's a little bit different when like, for like, I think that when she got attacked and she asked him like, where were you, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like hollering at him like, where were you, I think for him it was kind of like, dang, like you don't even see me, I've done so well as being your sidekick blending into the background, now you don't even see me and you talk about where was I was right there. Like what you mean,
Mm-hmm.
being there for you, doing what you needed. So it's like, to an extent, she created an environment where she needed people around her that would just go with her whim. And
I
I feel
mean,
like Terrence
yeah,
Howard's
yeah.
character does the same thing, but he wasn't like, it
Mm-hmm.
didn't phase him the same way. Like he enjoyed it. He preferred to be catering to her, taking care of her, that type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's
Yeah.
probably why it worked, because he understood what she needed and he enjoyed giving that to her. Not in like a weird way
I
though.
completely understood her frustration with Conrad over the
I
attack
did,
because you were supposed to be leaving your job to be over security, and you was cleaning your camera and you was not securitying.
because y'all got me taking pictures.
Sir,
How to be security? Y'all got me taking
sir,
pictures.
you ain't taking pictures of your wife. He
I'm over
wasn't
here
taking
trying to
pictures of
fix the
her.
camera for y'all.
He wasn't taking pictures of her. He wasn't
Like
over
that would
next
have
to
moved me
her
too. I done
because
took off
I
from
mean,
my
like,
job and stuff. Like, don't act like I'm not
I
here for
see.
you and I've been changing my life for you at the whim, at your every beck and
And
call.
he had to have either wanted to or just been okay with it. That's my thing. If you're
Yeah.
gonna just be okay and go along just to get along, then you should have been a little bit close. You should have seen
And
that
that's
man
why
coming up with
I
that
think
knife. You should have seen it, Conrad.
nah,
Conrad.
y'all can't put that on Conrad
Conrad
like
is
that.
head of security, and she was
And then he
secured by
didn't
her,
ask to be. She should have got real
but he
security
took
because he
it.
didn't
But
ask to
he
be.
did it. My thing is, he
And
did
he
it.
wasn't asked. She told him he's taking days off of work. He's
I'm going
gonna
to tell
be
you
there.
the most
Security.
powerful sentence. The most powerful sentence that can be uttered by any being is no.
Child, you think
No.
they would be married if he was the type to be like, no?
And that was the problem, is that they were married. That was the problem. I
Talk
think
like
that was the
that.
problem. I think that's one thing that just like really stuck out to me, is that like, I wonder what the dynamic would have looked like if she had a different type of match, a different type of pair. I know I'm not saying, I'm just saying what I am saying. What I am saying is that I think, although Conrad's personality worked somewhat because he would just kind of bend and
Hmm.
fold and do whatever she needed in that moment, I wonder what if she had been with someone who knew, because I have this partner who has decided to go into a life of politics, either I'm going to get 100% behind them and support them in doing it for real, like with that same level of passion, or we have to come up with some kind of boundary so that I can still be with you and you do your thing, but I'm not about to kill you. And
Yeah.
I think that's where where the ball was dropped, is that she just she had this understanding he was going to do whatever she told him, and he just did it. So
Yeah. Because he
neither of you are getting
understood.
what you need
Yeah.
from it.
It's such a difficult space to be in when you
What
understand how great somebody is and
somebody
how
is.
far they can go and how important, like, it's like, that like this person, like, you want to help this person get to this point because you know how important it is.
Hmm.
But then it's like you get to, it's so funny because it's the same thing with her and the people. It's like you're giving and giving and giving, and then when you want in return, you feel like nobody's showing up, nobody's there. Because to be fair, when he needed that, she wasn't there. And to be, who's to say like he wasn't beating himself up about his wife just got attacked? Like, of course he would be
Hmm.
upset
Of
too. You know what I'm
course.
saying? And
Hmm.
it's like, no, I didn't want the people to attack you. If I could have helped you, I would. Like, I've been by your side all this time, and you coming at me like this about this after I done changed my whole life for you without not even being asked. Like, I just got to do it. And it's like, I feel like because of she was so zoned in, I feel like that campaign run is what kind of did it for them.
Yeah, for
Because it was
sure.
like it
Yeah, for
became,
sure.
it was a different level of demanding. And it was
Hmm.
like, I think he started to see how lost he was getting in all of it. You know what I mean? And
A
it's like,
prime
you got
reason
to
for
literally be
boundaries.
like Arthur and just want to be the person to, like,
Just
he
right.
wanted to be that person. He wanted to do that. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? And I think because for Conrad, it was probably like, yeah, as my wife, as my wife, I want to do these things for you, but it's like, what about me? Like, you ain't thinking about.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
understood, but I ain't gonna lie, I bust out laughing when he ran up there because I thought he was just storming off, but he came that day.
With the papers, with the checkbook, that's what it was.
He said divorce. He said, you want a boundary? Oh, I got your boundary.
It was, yeah. I just, yeah. Now, what I will say is the presidential run,
Yes.
although it was not successful, obviously, because we have not had a black female president, I do think seeing some of the intricacies of how it happened and how it played out were very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Because I mean, like we said before, we understand that there's the deals. You do this for me, I do this for you. But there was a certain level of naivete that she just had in just expecting people to do exactly what they said they were going to do, like it wasn't politics. And my
Because
thing
that's what
about
she's used to.
politicians have a reputation as being liars. It's a
Mm-hmm.
reputation. Just like lawyers, there's a reputation for politicians to be liars. So for me, it
And
was,
he told her
again,
that at
that,
the table too, when he was like, what did he say? You could be political when you're a politician or something like that.
yeah.
You could play
Hmm. She said it's
politics or
so
something
political.
like
He
that.
said, yeah, he said, he said, that's interesting
Like,
to be
girl,
political when you're a
that was your
politician. No,
too.
absolutely. Like, and I absolutely agree. This is my thing, because I agree with you. If she had just had and it, I don't know that if it needed to be a different team, in some aspects, a different team, because she needed someone who could have really worked with her image and with her voice. I think a woman like Shirley Chisholm would have made a very interesting president. And the reason I say that is because of her understanding of the reality of how so many people live. We have had so many presidents who have come from affluent backgrounds, who maybe are a little bit out of touch with the reality of what people face. And I'm not saying, I am saying it. I am. We've had so many presidents who just don't really know what it's like to be an actual ordinary citizen in this country because they've
Mm-hmm.
always been exceptional, or they've always been in the top 1%. And I think that that's one thing that our country could definitely benefit from, and is still relevant now, is having someone who has either lived the struggle of an actual everyday, regular person who understands it because of how close they were to it. I don't know. It was almost like I had this FOMO watching this movie, because I'm just like, man, how powerful it would have been to be alive in the 60s and 70s and to experience this firecracker like Shirley Chisholm. I don't know. Just because you could see so many youth fired up by her. It was the time. That would have been the
Yeah.
time to have had a Shirley Chisholm, because of, you got to think this is around the time of like Vietnam and the counterculture, the hippie movement, and the whole shift with the sexual liberation. Again, more women's rights. Again, we're talking about people really like starting to protest the government in a different way. It was started with things like Montgomery bus boycott, and it really began to, now I don't want to use the word radicalize our youth in our country, but that's kind of what it revolutionized, if you will. Like the people, it was a new energy. There was it was a new energy kind of at this time. And I don't know, I had this just unique FOMO watching this movie, as if I were there in the 60s. I'm like, man, that would have been a good time if we had, if we had got this thing together.
And that's why I feel like, because with her, how like when Obama was in office, he kind of had the difficulty of, I think like it was either the House or the Senate was like Republican or whatever. It was hard to get stuff passed, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I feel like for her, with the way that she was going about in her campaign, I feel like she could have made a bigger impact if she had like understood the playing politics of it.
Mm-hmm,
like you just can't be in politics and not play politics. It's just not possible. That's why they call it playing politics.
Yeah,
it don't come not. Absolutely. They come from the name. Like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of people, even like a Bernie Sanders, it's like they go into it and it's like the reality is the political side of it, they're not even going to let somebody like that who's really, really for the people and it refuses to play the game. You're not going to, they literally have it set up to where you're not going to go too far. You're not really going to be able to get in. Yeah. That's why they didn't even really take her serious, because they knew like, it's not happening. We're not letting her get in here. She can make all the noise she wants to, but we're not letting her get in here. Like that's really what it was for them. And I feel like that's why it was frustrating me that she wasn't listening to Mac. She wasn't listening to the other guy, because I'm like, they understand it on a level that you don't.
You don't.
You are, and it's okay for you to be the person who's in dreamland. But if you're going to have people here to put things in place for you to make your dreams a reality, allow them to do that. I think she wanted to be so hands-on. She wasn't allowing people to do their job. Because when you allow the lawyer to do his thing, look at what happened. You know what I mean? I feel like she could have at least went further than she did if she had like played politics like they were trying to get her to do. They really listened to the advice that they was giving her.
And I think it's important to say that you can play politics and still be honorable, because there are different forms of playing politics. Like I personally, I'm not a big politics kind of person when it comes to that. They know that about me at my job, and it's probably why I have a bit of a reputation for saying what comes to my mind when I think that they are not giving what needs to be given. And again, you can play the game in a way that is honorable, where you don't compromise your morals. But in order to move in an industry like politics, you have to play the game. You can't go
especially
forward again
as fast as she was trying to move. Like you just got in Congress.
Because think about it. The only other person who moved that fast that we know of that was black became president because of the campaign. And I literally think if she had had a campaign similar to a Barack Obama campaign, she would have won the presidency.
Oh, absolutely.
It was the time.
Or gotten close, at least.
Or gotten close. She would have maybe gotten nomination, but she would have been a lot closer to winning the presidency, because what they got right with the Obama campaign was, one, you had the slogan that was just connected, but they played the game. They played the game well. And not only that, but they knew those moments where they needed public opinion. They got the right type of public opinion. They knew
They
how
got
to,
the
they
coins.
got the coin, they got the right celebrity endorsements. And
Yes.
I don't know, there were like, California to me was the biggest missed opportunity, because if she had started with California, even if she
Mm-hmm.
had missed some of those other states she won, if she had started with California, it would have been much better off, because it would have been an uphill battle, but she would have knocked it out sooner.
Yeah.
Like, I think California was one of the biggest missed opportunities, because for most of them, she won less than what, 1% of the
Yeah.
vote,
Like it was
3% here,
when I
4%
first
there, less than
watched
one
it, I
there.
was like, wait, damn, this how it went? I was like,
It was
damn.
bad. It was a bad, like, legit.
Because you just hear like, oh, the first black woman to run for president. You
It
didn't
was a
expect
bad
this
run.
to go like it's terrible. I was like, wait a minute.
It was a bad
We're
run.
not thinking.
Oh yeah, it was horrible, but it literally, I think just a lot of the things that we've said already, like, it was just, part of it was Shirley, and part of it was the time, and part of it was politics, and part of it was just, there were numerous factors, but part of it was Shirley. She was part of the problem as to why she
Mm-hmm.
didn't win the presidency, as to why her campaign didn't flourish the way it could have. So I think it was a great film because it was balanced. They didn't paint
Yeah.
her some savior. They didn't make her
It
this
seems so
martyr
real.
where everybody just did her wrong. They showed, yeah, you were snappy, yeah, you were demanding, you did, like, it. They set up, like, literally
Her
watching the movie
strengths were literally her
before,
weaknesses. That's what was crazy. Her strengths
literally,
were literally her weaknesses.
even before, like, the end, when they give you, like, one of my favorite, I'm such a nerd. One of my favorite things about biopics is when you get to the end of it and they show you the real picture of the people, and they tell
Yeah.
you about their life and where they are now. Anybody who's watched that movie would know by the end that she and Conrad got divorced. Everybody was just waiting to see it in writing,
Right.
literally, because the movie set it up. They set it up, like, literally, and that her and Arthur would end up together. They set it up. It was
They
there. The
did.
glances, the care.
I knew when he walked in that door day one, when Terrence Howard knocked on that door, and she just get a little quick little hang with Mac, and then she gets to them, and they got this little lingering hang. I said, y'all better like each other.
But
But
overall,
at
I
least
think
she
it
did it
was.
the right way.
Yeah, overall, I think
No
it was
shade.
a great film. It was so well done.
It was.
Oh,
It was
we didn't
so
even
good.
talk about one of my favorite scenes. I loved the interaction when Barbara Lee got them to Diane Carroll's house
Yes.
for a neutral ground meeting between Shirley Chisholm and Huey P. Newton. Oh my goodness.
I would have to get
Oh,
Huey together because who was you walking in here like, excuse me?
disrespectful.
Like, who are you?
Where,
You
sir, he came in there mad disrespectful. And I
like, and
liked
for
how
what?
it
You
didn't.
coming in hot for what? What have I done to you? Name the things. Name them. Like,
Oh, and then, cause that was a great scene. I also loved the interaction between Shirley and Diane.
mhm.
Them seeing each other as powerful black women at the
Yeah.
right time, having, accomplished major feats, both of them. One, the first black woman to have to be on a show on primetime TV, or like
The
date, like
main
a prime
character.
main character, for
She
Julia,
was
or
an American.
film. It was either film or it was TV. TV to film. I think that's what it was. And then the other being Shirley Chisholm in Congress. So, I think that was just really a powerful interaction between the two of them. But I will
But
also say
Huey came in
another,
with all that negative energy. I was like,
Huey totally came with all the negative energy, but I like
for what?
how they got each other together. I liked
Mm-hmm.
the interaction, because I'm sure it reflected some of how that thing actually went down. I don't see either of those personalities not giving what they gave in that conversation.
Same.
Period.
My thing
But
is, don't come in here with an attitude and you misquoting me. That ain't even what I said.
that's not what I
You
said.
mad and
Because
I
when
didn't
he
even say
said it,
that.
I was like, that's not what she said. And she's like, that's not what I said.
They showed it in the beginning of the movie, and
They
she
showed
said
it.
what she said.
She said what she
And
said.
it was like that was you mad, and that's not even what I said.
Hmm.
Like, bring it down.
Semantics.
I'm gonna have to get
Semantics.
these together. I don't care who black
I
you are.
enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the interaction between Shirley Chisholm and George Wallace. Being someone from Alabama, and, what I will give Alabama education some credit with, some, not much. It's not even like, I'm not even clapping my hands or snapping my fingers for it. It's not even, you're not getting that much. But we were required in school to learn state history. And so we knew a lot about some of the senators and governors and people who have led the state over time and some of our state history. And there's a lot of like Native American history connected to this state as well. A lot of names and cities, like even the city that I'm from is Choctaw. So it's like there's all different names and that connect straight from Native American culture. But back to the state history, we learned a lot about George Wallace and how
Mm-hmm.
not great of a person he was and how terrible that history is, and even how his governorship led to the first woman being governor, his wife becoming governor over the state of Alabama. But watching that interaction, because he was towards the end of his career, he did get a little bit better. He really did towards the end of his career. It is noted that his tone started to change somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
But that interaction between the two of them, I think, was one of those things that also wanted to give, because they were showing so much of the reality of who Shirley Chisholm was. I think it was important to show that moment.
Yeah.
Because with all of the crazy and high-strung energy and demands, there is also still this woman who at her core is a woman for the people and for all people. Even if I disagree with you, even if you don't like me and you've been public about it, her having that moment where they said, like, what kind of black person would you be to XYZ? And she said, what kind of Christian would I be? And that is what Christianity is. That's what it's
Yeah.
supposed to be, is that care, that love, like that genuine check-in. I agree with the people who were frustrated with her about seeing him. And at the same time, I agree with her motive behind going to see him and the interaction that they had. It's like two things
Yeah.
can be true at the same time. It can be frustrating because of the optics, but when you explain what you did and why and the conversation that you had, it all makes more
Yeah.
sense. It's humanity. Like, there's so many reasons to divide us. There's so many reasons that already exist to keep us separated, to keep us, divided. But if we just get it all down to base level, just being all humans, there's a reason alone for us to try and at least see the humanity in each other. And I just
And
thought it was
Johnny,
a
people was
powerful moment.
mad. The people was
Mad.
mad right there.
And understandable, because George Wallace was not a great person for a lot of his life and career. A lot of it, majority of it. Did a lot of horrible things, was behind a lot of horrible attacks on black people and on rights. He was the governor during the time of the boycotts. He did, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff going on in Alabama in the 60s. He was there. He was there. He was the one standing on the steps of the Capitol when they were crossing the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
It was him. So
And
let's
it's like,
just
I'm trying to tell people the 60s wasn't that long
was
ago.
not. Come on now.
Some of these people are still in office today. Some of these people are still in the Supreme Court today. And my thing too is like, okay, so let me ask you this,
Hmm.
because you are our resident PK, you are our resident
Oh yeah, that's me.
Christian holy man. So here's my thing: is like, I understand like forgiveness and like being genuine and being like compassionate, empathetic, all these great things. Beautiful gowns, beautiful gowns.
Hmm.
But my thing is like, at what point do do you have to be directly with the person? Like, even with the situation with her and Ron, and she was like, "Oh, tell him come on home to me. Tell him."
Hmm.
And I'm just like, "Girl, you can forgive him, but we ain't got to break bread." Like,
So what the
we,
Bible says, the Bible does talk about when you have a problem with somebody and to go to them and to talk to them one on one. It does have language that tells you when you have an issue with someone and when you work through that issue, it is supposed to be like a one on one. I go to you. And if we need to be mediated with by the elders, then they're there to guide the conversation. It depends. And again, my practice of Christianity is somewhat different from what is very public and modernized or contemporary, like the big stuff that I'm not really tapped into that. I try and practice the principles of Christianity and the example that Christ led versus just all the doctrine. Because I don't think that, okay, that's not today's conversation. But and it was funny because I was having a conversation with someone, me and a few coworkers were talking a couple weeks ago, and it connects to what you were saying because someone said, well, I guess if such and such happens, I'm gonna just turn the other cheek. And me and this other girl, I'm a PK, and she comes from, her dad like is a scholar. He does a lot of like biblical study, so he knows the Bible, and she's learned a lot from her dad in the process. And when they said, well, I'm gonna just turn the other cheek, and she said, you know what turn the other cheek means, right? Like, are you aware what that actually means? And they're like, yeah, it means I'm gonna just turn and walk away. And I'm like, that's not what it means. That's not at all what it means. What it means is if the verse is saying if they slap you on your left cheek, you turn and give them the right cheek to slap. Now that foolishness, I don't really adopt that. But I think the
Yeah.
spirit of it is that is something wrong with them that has nothing to do with you. I think
Yeah.
that's what the actual bones of that story is. So yeah, like from the Christian perspective, forgiveness is big, and there is supposed to be one-on-one, but
But
at
I
the
feel
same
like
time,
go ahead.
yeah, at the same time, I think that there are times, especially now, there are times where you can pray. And if you need to shoot that person a text or have a conversation on the phone with that person to have some sort of like, we're good type of situation, that can be it. I
Right.
don't know that it's necessary.
Because I wouldn't have went to go see George. I'm
Now,
sorry.
I'm going to say one thing
I might have
about her going
called
to
and
see
checked on you
George.
and prayed for you, but I don't need to come hold your like. I don't have to do. Now, granted, if she felt like the spirit told her go do that, then of course go do that. But it's just like I see so many times with our history in general of like it's always us literally turning the other cheek, like giving somebody your other cheek to slap. That's literally
Hmm.
what we be doing. Like, hey, slap me over here. This one's good. Like, I feel like it's been so many times in our history where, and it's also been like my battle with Christianity and making me feel like they kind of, some of that stuff is to make our people docile and to just kind of be like, oh, we just gonna be forgiven and we just go. And it's like, I need y'all. Like that's why I was like, I probably would have been with a Black Panther or with Malcolm X. Like I need y'all to still understand that like some of these people you don't have to be in spaces with. You don't have to
Hmm.
extend yourself to. You don't have to go out of your way to the point where it's a detriment to you. That's something even I'm learning in my own life. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we're always taught to be so forgiving, but I feel like forgiveness a lot of times isn't even for the other person.
Period.
Because it's like it's not like George Wallace just woke up and was like, I'm not racist anymore. Like it
No.
didn't do
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They had a beautiful moment and it did whatever it did in the moment, but it wasn't like, oh, he's who he is just all of a sudden changed. He's just holding this person and da 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 da. Like I feel like, or even with when we talk about the Chris Brown thing and the forgiveness of that, and people feeling like, but you haven't shown us changed behavior. You just want the forgiveness. You just
Hmm.
want us to move on with it and just let it go. And I feel like so many times with our people, it's what set us back. It's trying to be so, I don't even know what the right word for it is, but it's usually always rooted in Christianity. I always say like as
Hmm.
a Christian or, what would Jesus do and that type of
Hmm.
thing. And I be thinking sometimes like they didn't write me in the story as Jesus. Like I'm like one of the disciples or something. Like I ain't gotta do what Jesus had did.
Right.
That's not my battle.
You
Ask
know,
Jesus to do it.
what I find interesting about what you're saying, because I see where you're coming from too. I think that over time, and this is something that I don't know if they've intentionally done or unintentionally done with Christianity, but they've mistaken forgiveness for docility, like for completely um, wiping the slate clean in a sense of you can do no wrong now. And I think that the reminders that, again, in many cases, forgiveness of another person is for you, not for that other
Mm-hmm.
person. Because I think the reason that, for me, I'm going to say my perspective. I can't speak for all of Christians, I can't. But for me, my interpretation when it comes to forgiveness is that if I choose not to forgive, that is a burden, that is luggage I walk around with,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you
carry it
carry
on
that
me.
energy.
I
Right.
mess up my back with that mess. Then my shoulders
Right.
and my neck and my third eye and my crown are polluted with the things that I carry around if I choose not to forgive. And forgiveness over time, unforgiveness over time, I feel like turns into bitterness.
Right.
and resentment,
Totally
and then
agree.
it begin then it lashes out. And
Hmm.
for me, I forgive for that reason because I don't want it to form a cancer in me
Right.
from not being able to let that go. Now, what she did, I see it in two ways. I see it as almost a political move to a certain degree, but I also see it as this is an opportunity for you to say what is on your mind to someone who has given you so much hell and he can't go anywhere. He is a captive audience. And he made the point of saying that. He's like, now you would
Yeah.
say that when I can't get up and go.
But I can't even
Period.
go.
Yes. I'm going to sit over
I can't
here
even leave this room.
I'm going to sit over here out of arm's reach and I'm going to say what's on my mind about you because I do to a certain degree think you're not a great person. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel that I also have a duty as a Christian, as a politician, as an activist, as a woman to be here. Now, back to what you were also saying about how our faith or Christianity has led to so many people thinking about forgiveness in a way that leaves them just being beaten, abused, and attacked by those around them. I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you on that too. But the reason I agree with you is I'm gonna connect it to history. The reason I agree with you is because when our people were given Christianity, in many cases, they were slaves. And
Yeah.
Christianity was used as a tool to control them, not so
Yeah.
much as something to inspire, motivate, and free them. It was not used to liberate them. That came later. And so
Yeah.
I think that to a certain degree, that curse still exists within the Christian church. I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you on that. I do think for some people, that's what forgiveness looks like, is completely wiping yourself of any in like not allowing yourself to be upset about something, not allowing yourself to just let whatever they did be okay, forgive and
Yeah.
forget. I don't forget. No, I don't forget.
Exactly.
I
It's like,
learn and I
don't
do better next
forget,
time.
and that be the part is the
Mm-mm,
forget of it all. It's like, no, you are not supposed to forget when
mm-mm,
somebody has, because if you're forgetting the lesson that you were supposed to learn in this moment.
mm-hmm,
You're forgetting the lessons that you were supposed to take with you, and now you're going to keep experiencing this same type of thing. And I feel like even with her, it was the same thing. It's like she experienced it with the women when they weren't showing up for her and
mm-hmm,
voting for her. You know what I'm saying? She experienced it when they backstabbed her and gave all their delegates away. Like, she kept having moments where they were showing her of like, because my thing is like, I feel like it's nothing wrong with forgiving people, but you have to understand that like you don't have to be in community with those people. You don't
right.
have to
No, absolutely.
associate yourself with those people just to prove that you forgave
That
them.
you forgive
That's
them,
just
yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
people. I remember when I moved to the South, and it's like I'm the type of person. If I don't fool with you,
I don't fool with
I'm
you.
not. I don't fool with you. I'm not going to say hey to prove that I'm cordial. What are we saying hey for? I don't fool with you. You don't fool with me. We both know
And
that.
we
Why are
know
we
that
saying
and
hey?
that's it.
Why are we saying hey? Why are people getting mad that I don't want to say hey to you? We established that I don't fool with you. You
And
don't
you
fool
don't
with
fool with
me.
me.
What are we
Period.
hating for? And people love to, because I know how to be cordial. Oh, I'm grown. I can be cordial. That's fake to me.
That's
I'm
fake.
sorry.
I was just
If
about to
you
say you're not
grown,
grown, you're
we should
fake.
be able to be in the same room and not speak to each
And
other
I
and
have to
nobody be affected by it. That's grown. That is what grown is. You feeling like just because you went out of your way to be fake and say hey to somebody that you don't even want to talk to, that don't make you grown to me. I'm sorry. It just don't.
period.
If I didn't personally walk in your house and not speak to you, there's nothing for us to talk about. What's to
And
talk
that's
about?
the exception. No, I completely agree. I have a coworker. We haven't spoken to each other in 3 months, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Perfectly okay with that.
There's
And
no
it
issue for me.
bothers people when you don't come in and say
I
hey
don't
to
see
them.
you,
And
you
it's
don't see
like
me, and we just keep it moving. What do
your
we have to
old
talk about?
roommate, it bothered her so much that I
It
just
did.
just ate her up. Like, it's like,
Hmm.
girl, do you stay up at night thinking about this?
It really did bother her. Oh, she hated that
Like,
so
girl,
much.
I don't fool with you. Just let it be.
And even when we were still living together, she would be like, "Dee just does. I don't like. Dee just doesn't like me." And I'm like, "No, she really doesn't.
I don't.
She doesn't
I
like me."
don't. And it's like one day she asked me and I told
You
her
told her.
verbatim
You
why.
did. You did. You
These
did
are the
tell
reasons.
her.
These are the things that I do not like about you. I don't know if you probably ain't been listening to the diss tracks and stuff, but
I've
I
heard
did.
some of them.
Kendrick on one of his diss tracks to Drake was basically like, I hate the way you walk, I hate the way you
Oh,
talk, I hate the way
Euphoria. Oh, I heard that
like
one.
that. I was like, girl, I do not like you. I don't like the way you walk. I don't like the way you talk. I don't like the way you dress. I don't like your wigs. I don't like.
No. Not the wigs.
I'm sorry, God forgive me. And I
Not
should
the
have.
wigs.
The shadow came out.
The
Listen, you know my shadow is a
shadow.
full
The
on
shadow was
Scorpio.
about to snatch one too.
My shadow is a full
Um,
on Scorpio.
but yes, okay, y'all. So literally, our review of Shirley is go watch it. If you don't know
Yes,
enough about
it
Shirley
was so
Chisholm, go watch
good.
it. If you know about Shirley, go watch it. It was a phenomenal film. I think we both would recommend it. Definitely
Yes,
had our frustrations, but they were character flaws. They weren't with the way the film was executed. I think they did a great job in executing the
it
film.
did. I watched it twice.
Yeah, wonderful. And also like I think even now we're in an era where we're starting to see more of our activists get true films. Like I want to see and not just activists, but I want to see some films about our scholars. Like I want to see a Du Bois film. Like I want to see
Yes, that
I
would
want
be
to
good.
see
See,
some things
something
like
different.
that. Something
You know
different.
what
And
I'm tired of? And
what's that?
when I was watching Rusty, it dawned on me what I'm tired of. I'm tired of them picking any random black man and being like, let's put a mustache on him. That's Martin Luther King. People don't be giving you.
Be looking nut. Martin Luther King has been everything from lily white to chocolate black, and
Because you know, give
like,
him a mustache. That's Dr. King.
and just
Give him a
have
mustache
him
and a
talk
suit.
a certain kind of way, and put him in a 3-piece suit, and it's done.
So if any black man at us
Any
with a
black
mustache and
man,
being like, here is your Dr.
Martin
King.
Luther
Child,
King.
I'm surprised they ain't put Conrad in there as Dr. King. Like,
He could have been. He could have been at this point.
right.
No, I completely agree. But like again, Rusted was another one that we've talked about before. That was just again a great film about activists. I would love to see more films about like a film about Nina Simone. I would love to see a film about Shaka Khan
A real
and
film about Nina
a
Simone.
real film, a true biopic. Give us something with
I
Lauryn
think you should
Hill.
kind of do hers now while we still got you, sis.
Yes. Ooh, who could
Not
play
that we don't want
Shaka?
nothing to happen to her at no
Who could play
time
Shaka
soon.
Khan?
Oh, that's a good question. You know who could have played her, who
Who?
actually has a theater background, but it won't work because of the person they became? Nicki Minaj. She could have did it
I
if
think
she
she
had
still
gotten
can.
her acting back.
I think she still can. Well, dang the body. Maybe
Yeah,
not.
she can't.
She can.
But I think they would have to give her an AI body.
She have a whole CGI build. All right, that's horrible. No, it's not. It's the truth.
But
Um,
like just with her, like she was somebody who had a theater
mhm.
background, but I feel like she hasn't
She's
really tapped
giving
into
Shaka
acting
Khan
like
in the
that.
face. She's
It's
giving like
very
she's got the
giving
face.
very that in the face.
I don't know. I don't know. We'd have to pray
Do
about
it.
it. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's because I was just
and you know Shaka
now.
Khan, she feisty. She ain't gonna let just
She's not
anybody.
gonna let just anybody. I'm trying to
That's
think.
another
Even
reason why I really want it to be Nikki. I don't feel like she could represent Shaka Khan the way she needs to
yeah,
be.
maybe not in the best.
The Black
Because
Panther of her
that's like
alone,
the
she
Black
could.
Panther, and I was almost thinking Yara, but I don't know that. I don't think she can sing.
Oh,
I was thinking Yara as far as like she might be able to look like her, especially
she
young
would
Shaka
be a
Khan.
good
She would be a
yeah.
good one, wouldn't she?
She would be a good
Yara,
one.
she would be a good
Seriously, that's
Shaka.
a good idea.
Thank you. I should submit that to somebody
Good.
and get this
You
film written.
should listen. If
Um,
she get booked, we want our coin. Well, Jay want
and
his coin.
we collaboration. And
You know, I
finally,
put myself in there.
and finally, another one. I I don't know if everybody knows this, but there is a Michael Jackson biopic. Another one being made. This one's being made by the family, if I'm not mistaken. So his nephew's playing him.
Okay.
It's gonna be good. The nephew dropped a single maybe a month or two ago. This is the nephew who sounds just like Michael when he sings.
Mm.
So he's gonna be playing Michael. I'm excited to see it, and we know this because Coleman Domingo is gonna be playing Joe Jackson. So that's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be
Yes.
interesting. But I want, and I don't know if there are any more details. I should look into it. I want a true Luther Vandross biopic.
That would be good.
And I heard rumors that there's one in production.
That would actually be good.
I would love to see it. I would love to
If
see it.
it's
I read
done
a
right,
book.
because I'm tired of them giving us these biopics that are done wrong. They ain't getting no approval from the families. Ain't nobody who work for nothing involved. Don't nobody that actually know nothing involved. Like
they look like those Lifetime biopics sometimes, and Lifetime puts out some
Catherine
good
wrote it.
ones. Like the Clark Sisters was good, and Mahalia Jackson was good. Mahalia Jackson was good. Did you see Mahalia?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my gosh, that was really good. I watched that recently. That was good. That was so good. Oh my goodness, I'm just still reflecting on how good it was. It was good because that was Danielle Brooks, wasn't it?
There's more than one of hers.
The most recent one I think was Danielle Brooks that I
didn't
saw.
see that one then. No,
I saw
didn't see
that one.
I saw
That one was good. That one was very good.
because I was a old Hollywood fan when I was growing up. So when they dropped who played her in that one a few years ago?
I know what you're talking about.
Queen Latifah?
Maybe. I know which one you're talking about. Maybe. Because I knew that there was another one. I knew that there was another one when I was watching this one. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's another Mahalia Jackson. So yes, y'all. We're going to be getting into all types of reviews of things, y'all. We can go ahead and tell you a couple of things we're going to be reviewing this season. We're going to be reviewing X-Men 97, obviously.
And all its shenanigans.
All of the foolishness. So we're not saying anything right now, but let me tell y'all, we are going to get into X-Men 97. Also, The Bear. If you have not seen The Bear, I definitely recommend it. I recommended it to Dee. She watched it. We're going to do a whole episode on The Bear. We're going to talk about this show. We're going to get into the crazy chaoticness that was The Bear. And that will probably be a third season of The Bear. I don't know. We'll have to see.
It better be.
It better be. So yes, we just want to thank y'all for coming back. Season 5, y'all. We're going to be reviewing some things. We're going to be having our conversations, and we're so excited to see y'all. Peace, love, and we'll see you next week.
Love and happiness.
Yes. Never
make it do wrong. Make it do right.
Yeah. Oh. Period.